Hi again, folks, here on LibertyFlames.com. My name is Nick Pierce, and we're joined by Liberty Flames defensive coordinator Robert Wimberly as we recap the 2012 championship run for the Liberty Flames. And Coach Wimbo, certainly the defense played an integral part of that run, especially at the end of the season. You think about games like the Stony Brook game with 5 takeaways, then the VMI game, Brent Vinson makes a big play on 4th down. Defensively, what were some of the highlights from this season that really stuck out to you?
You know, I think for us as a defensive staff, as we just did a recap after the last game, we felt real good that we was able to play a lot of young men. You know, unfortunately had some injuries that we wasn't counting on, and to see some young men step up and be able to benefit and help our team, we thought that was real good for our defense.
You look at some of the stats from this season. You were 38th in scoring defense, 16th in total defense and yards allowed, and then a couple of stats that really stick out. 12th in third down efficiency, and then also on top of that, you were 3rd in first down defense. When you think about those numbers, how are those, how do those translate to the overall success of a defense?
Well, I think it goes back to what we were preaching when we first got here back in spring. You know, we wanted to make plays. We wanted to force 3 and outs. That was the biggest thing that we talked about was 3 and outs and 3rd down. So, we were not surprised as we got about mid-year in the season. We realized, guys, we got a real good chance to keep preaching this. We're going to see a lot of success of 3 and outs and getting off the field on 3rd down. And so we really think that our kids bought into that. Some other areas we got to continue to improve on and emphasize this upcoming spring. But we definitely saw the fruits of the hard work in the spring of this past year.
Seems like the turning point in this season might have been the Gardner-Webb game at halftime. Can you tell us a little bit about what the locker room was like there and what changed? Why did the switch seemingly click?
Well, I think it was more or less the guys telling me, Coach, what you're calling works. We just got to do our job. I think the biggest thing, just having the wisdom of Coach Singletary, our co-defensive coordinator, and Coach Torbush and Marshall Roberts coming in and saying, Wimbo, what you're doing is working. We got to get our guys to do what we're teaching them to do. And then you go in and see your defense. Everybody's eyes was up. Nobody was down. Coach, we just got to do what you're telling us and you're teaching us to do. I think I saw a group of young men grow up on their own. You didn't have to harp on them. Yeah, I did fuss and yell. I think that's what all coaches do. But it wasn't to beat them down. It's just, guys, you got to just do what we're teaching you to do. And I think in the second half, we saw our guys finally say, you know what, if we just do what we're taught to do, we're going to be successful.
It seemed like all year the one thing that was missing was takeaways from the defensive side, and then you pretty much make up for that in one game with the Stony Brook contest. How hard was it to keep guys on that track to say that what we're doing is working, but this is all going to come in bunches, and when it comes, it's going to be awesome.
Well, I think our kids really bought into it because we all felt like we were playing pretty good defense. So in that area of turnovers, yes, you want to get them, but when we was reviewing our games, it wasn't like our defense was just giving up a whole bunch of yards, and we was having a lot of miscues. We was giving up big plays, but when you look back at those big plays, as I tell our young men, it was a lot of 50-50. We went up for the ball, they went up for the ball, they caught the ball, we didn't. It wasn't a lot of open big plays where guys were just running 60, 70 yards for a touchdown. So how does that tie into turnovers? We just kept preaching to them, it's going to come. It's going to come. We're playing good football. I think our young men believe that we were playing good football. It's just a matter of time, and like I said, it came at the right game.
Absolutely, it did. When you look at the personnel for next season, it seems like the defensive line is going to be where you lose the most. I mean, guys like Brian Llewellyn, Greg Schuster, Demetrius Ward, you have to replace those guys. The secondary looks potentially very strong. Okay. Still a possibility we could get Kevin Fogg back next year. Yes, if you could kind of give us an update on how that looks and just overall, how it looks as far as replacing some key guys on defense.
Well, the D-line, I'm very excited about our D-line because, like I said, we played a lot of guys. When you lose Francis Barr for a few games, we had to, play some other young men. You have different injuries. We end up losing Chima at the end of the year, Nico Davis. So a lot of young men had to come in and get some snaps. And I think by them getting game snaps, I think we're going to be very surprised at how we're going to have the continuity of our defensive line. Coach Singletary does a great job with those young men. And so I think we're going to be perfectly fine. I'm probably very excited about our defensive line just because I know a lot of young men got reps, and it's going to carry over into next year instead of next year being their first time under the lights. I think in the secondary, of course, like you said, if we get the opportunity to get Kevin Fogg back, I don't know, the status of that. But if we are blessed to get him back, I definitely think that's going to be a very big upgrade to our back end, not just because of his level of play, but just the leadership that he brings. We're going to be losing Brett Vinson, so now you get an opportunity to have Fogg lead your secondary. As a defensive coordinator, you can't ask for anything better. So hopefully that works out for us, that we're able to get him back. And secondary-wise, I think you see a lot of young men that really want to prove that we can make plays on the ball, because that was an area, like I said, we was in good spots. We just didn't make plays, and therefore our interceptions went down. So I think you got a lot of young men, just hearing them talking in our end-of-the-year meetings, they're very focused on showing the country that, we can make plays on the ball.
All right, good stuff. Well, Coach, we certainly appreciate the time, and best of luck to you coming up here in recruiting. It's a busy time of year, isn't it?
Yes, sir, very busy. We're trying to find players that want to be a part of the Flames family.
All right, good stuff. That's Robert Wimberly, defensive coordinator here at Liberty University, and my name is Nick Pierce for LibertyFlames.com.